Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked through the massive halls of the Galactic Council building. Her shoes made soft clicking sounds on the polished stone floor. The building was huge and old, built by aliens who had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Humans had only been in space for about 200 years. They were the youngest species in the galaxy by far. Elena had been Earth's representative for 5 years now. Every day she came to this building and tried to speak for humanity. Every day she felt how little her voice mattered. The other species listened to her politely, but she could see it in their eyes. They thought humans were children playing at being adults. The main council chamber was a circular room with seats arranged in rings. The oldest species sat in the center, closest to the speaking platform. Humans sat in the outer ring with the other newer members. Elena took her seat and looked around at the familiar faces. The Kethver delegation sat in the second ring. They were tall warriors with thick gray skin and 4 arms. Their leader, War Commander Zethkar, had scars running down his face from some ancient battle. He never looked at Elena directly, but she could feel his contempt. To him, humans were weak creatures who talked too much and fought too little. The Zephyrians held seats in the center ring. They looked almost human except for their blue skin and large black eyes. They dressed in expensive robes and spoke in careful, measured words. Their representative, first speaker Velmuth, smiled at everyone but meant none of it. Elena had learned to watch his hands instead of his face. When he was planning something, his long fingers would tap against his chair. Today's meeting was about territorial claims. Captain Marcus Chen had sent his report 3 weeks ago. His ship, the Endeavor, had found something amazing during a routine exploration mission. A star system with 3 planets that could support human life. The worlds had fresh water, breathable air, and rich soil. It was the kind of discovery that happened maybe once every few years. Elena had filed the proper claim forms immediately. Under galactic law, the species that discovered a system had the right to colonize it. The law was clear and simple. But Elena had learned that clear laws meant very little when older species wanted something. Council. Speaker Morthak called the session to order. He was ancient even by galactic standards, his crystalline body shifting colors as he spoke. We gathered today to address competing claims for the system designated as SC-7743, he announced. His voice echoed strangely in the chamber. Elena stood when her name was called. Honored council members, she began, using the formal words she had memorized years ago. The human vessel Endeavor discovered System SC-7743 on the 15th day of the 3rd galactic month. Captain Chin's crew conducted full surveys of all 3 habitable worlds. The system was uninhabited and unclaimed. Under Article 12 of the Territorial Accords, this gives humanity the right to establish colonies. There. She sat down and waited. The evidence was clear. Captain Chin had detailed records of everything. Sensor scans, planetary surveys, even video recordings of his crew planting the Discovery beacon. But Elena's stomach felt tight with worry. War. Commander Zethkar rose to his full impressive height. The Council recognizes the hegemony of Kethver, Speaker Morthak announced. My people have a different understanding of this matter, Zethkar said. His voice was deep and carried the hint of a growl. The system in question lies within the traditional hunting grounds of the Kethver. Our ancestors flew through that region of space 5,000 years ago. By the laws of ancient claim, it belongs to us. Elena felt her heart sink. The laws of ancient claim were old rules that predated the current territorial accords. They said that if a species could prove their ancestors had visited a region of space, they could claim it even if they had never settled there. The law was rarely used because it was almost impossible to prove such old claims, but apparently the Kethver had brought proof. Zethkar activated a holographic display that showed ancient star charts and flight records. Elena could not read the symbols, but other council members nodded as they studied the evidence. First Speaker Velmuth stood next. The Zephyrian Collective supports our esteemed colleagues from Kethver, he said smoothly. While we appreciate Humanity's enthusiasm for exploration, proper procedures must be followed. The ancient claim laws are part of our sacred galactic heritage. To ignore them would set a dangerous precedent. Elena wanted to stand up and argue. The ancient claim laws were supposed to be used only in special cases. They were meant to protect sites of deep cultural importance, not to steal valuable worlds from whoever found them. But she stayed in her seat. She had learned that arguing too forcefully only made the other species think humans were aggressive and immature. Speaker Morthak's body shifted to a pale blue color as he considered the matter. Other council members whispered among themselves in languages Elena did not understand. Finally, the ancient being spoke. After careful consideration, this council finds that the Kethver claim has merit. The ancient claim laws are indeed part of our legal foundation. The system SC7743 is hereby awarded to the hegemony of Kethver. The human claim is dismissed. Elena felt the words hit her like a physical blow. 3 perfect worlds, gone with a few sentences. Worlds where human families could have built new homes and raised children under alien suns. All taken by a legal trick and some old star charts that might not even be real. She stood slowly and bowed her head. Humanity accepts the council's decision, she said. The words tasted bitter in her mouth, but this was what Earth's government had told her to do. Keep the peace. Don't make enemies. Show the galaxy that humans could be trusted partners. War Commander Zethkar looked directly at her for the first time. There was something ugly in his expression, a satisfaction that went beyond simply winning. He enjoyed seeing her defeated. Elena met his gaze for a moment, then looked away. After the session ended, Elena walked back through the great halls toward the human embassy. Other delegates passed her, some nodding politely, others ignoring her completely. None of them stopped to offer sympathy or support. In the galaxy's political games, every species looked out for themselves first. Captain Chun was waiting for her when she reached her office. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. Elena could see the disappointment on his face before she even spoke. They gave it to the Kethver, she said simply. Chun was quiet for a long moment. Then he shook his head. My crew risked their lives mapping those worlds. We spent 3 months doing detailed surveys. And now warriors who have never even seen the system get to claim it because their great-great-grandfathers might have flown through that region of space? The council has spoken, Elena replied. It was what she always said when there was nothing else to say. The council is broken, Chun said quietly. This isn't justice, it's politics dressed up as law. Elena did not disagree, but she could not say so out loud. Her job was to represent humanity's interests while maintaining peaceful relationships with other species. Even when those species treated humans unfairly, even when they used their age and power to take what they wanted, she had to smile and accept it. Captain Chun left without another word. Elena sat alone in her office and began writing her report. To Earth, she would tell them about the lost worlds and the legal maneuvering. She would recommend that humanity continue to seek peaceful solutions and diplomatic compromise. But deep inside, a small voice whispered that perhaps Captain Chun was right. Perhaps the system was broken beyond repair. Outside her window, alien ships moved through the space around the council station. Ships from dozens of species, all supposedly working together for the common good? Elena watched them and wondered how long humanity's patience would last. How many more defeats could they accept in the name of peace? She did not know that she would find out soon enough. The attacks started small. Captain Sarah Williams first noticed them when her cargo ship was stopped by a Kethver patrol near the Centauri system. The warriors claimed they needed to inspect her ship for safety violations. What should have taken 2 hours stretched into 3 days. Your loading clamps appear worn, the Kethver inspector told her. He was young for his species, with only one scar across his neck. We must examine each cargo container individually to ensure they are properly secured. Sarah watched helplessly as the aliens opened every crate in her hold. They moved slowly and found problems with everything. A container of medical supplies was improperly labeled. Food shipments needed additional documentation. Mining equipment required structural verification. By the time they finished, Sarah had missed her. Delivery window at New Geneva Colony. The food she carried was needed for the colony's winter storage. Now it would arrive 3 days late, and some of it had spoiled in the delay. This was not an isolated incident. Within 2 months, every human cargo ship had been stopped at least once. Some were detained for a week or more. The HFY always found official reasons for the delays, but their real message was clear. Human ships moved through space only with their permission. Commander David Torres ran the defense fleet for the outer colonies. He was a veteran officer who had served in space for 20 years. He had never seen anything like what was happening now. HFY warships appeared without warning in human systems. They claimed to be conducting training exercises. They came in fast and low over New Perth, Torres reported to Admiral Chun. 12 heavy cruisers in attack formation. They flew directly over the main city, then circled the orbital farms. The colonists thought they were under attack. The HFY ships had weapons powered and shields raised. They performed practice bombing runs on civilian targets. Children in the schools were terrified. Farmers abandoned their work to take shelter. The mock attack lasted 4 hours before the alien ships departed as suddenly as they had arrived. Did they respond to your communications? Admiral Chun asked. They sent one message, Torres replied. War Commander Zethkar himself told us they were testing their navigation systems. He said human colonies provided useful landmarks for their training. Admiral Chun felt his jaw tighten. The HFY were sending a message. They wanted humans to know how easily their worlds could be destroyed. Any colony could be attacked at any moment. The humans would live in constant fear, never knowing when the practice runs might become real attacks. The harassment was not limited to military shows of force. The Zephyrians had their own methods. First Speaker Velmoth appeared to be genuinely helpful when he visited Ambassador Vasquez 3 months after the SC-7743 incident. The collective has received concerning reports about human terraforming activities, he said, with what looked like sincere worry. Some of our environmental specialists believe your methods may be harming native ecosystems. Elena looked at the formal complaint he handed her. It was 30 pages long and filled with scientific terms she did not understand. Which colonies are affected? She asked. New Eden, Harmony, and Prosperity, Velmoth replied. All 3 worlds are showing signs of ecological disruption. We must conduct immediate inspections to prevent further damage. Elena knew this was nonsense. New Eden had been carefully surveyed before colonization. The planet had simple plant life but no complex ecosystems to disrupt. Harmony was a desert world that humans were slowly making habitable. Prosperity had been lifeless when they found it, but the complaint was filed through proper channels and supported by Zephyrian scientists. The Galactic Council had to investigate. Elena watched helplessly as teams of inspectors descended on the 3 colonies. They disrupted farming operations and delayed construction projects. The colonists were treated like criminals who had damaged something precious. The inspections took 6 months. The final report concluded that human terraforming methods were marginally acceptable but needed enhanced oversight. From now on, every human colony would require monthly environmental reports and yearly inspections. The cost and paperwork would slow human expansion to a crawl. Dr. Sarah Mitchell discovered something worse during a routine biological survey of New Eden's crops. She was the chief xenobiologist for the Colonial Development Program. Her job was to monitor how Earth plants adapted to alien soil and climate. Look at this, she told her assistant, Dr. James Park. Under her microscope was something that should not exist. A microscopic organism that was attacking the root systems of wheat plants. This parasite is not native to New Eden. The genetic structure is too complex and too specifically targeted. Dr. Park examined the sample carefully. You think it was engineered? I know it was, Sarah replied grimly. This organism is designed to destroy cereal grains, wheat, corn, rice, barley. It attacks nothing else. Someone created it as a weapon. Further, investigation revealed the same parasite on harmony and prosperity. It had been introduced into the soil through methods that looked natural but were carefully planned. Sarah's team traced the genetic markers and found something shocking. The organism showed clear signs of HFY biotechnology. "They are trying to starve us," Sarah reported to Admiral Chun. "If this parasite spreads to all our agricultural worlds, we will not be able to feed our colonies. Millions of people will have to return to Earth or face famine." The evidence was overwhelming. Genetic analysis, distribution patterns, and timing all pointed to deliberate sabotage by the HFY. Ambassador Vasquez presented the findings to the Galactic Council with complete documentation. She had video evidence, scientific reports, and expert testimony from multiple species. War Commander Zethkar denied everything. "The humans are desperate to blame others for their own failures," he told the Council. "They choose poor worlds for their colonies and use primitive farming methods. When their crops fail, they seek someone else to bear responsibility." The Council agreed to investigate. They appointed a committee of scientists from neutral species to examine the evidence. The committee would report their findings in 8 months. Meanwhile, 3 human colonies faced crop failures and potential starvation. Elena requested emergency food aid from the Galactic Relief Program. Her application was denied because proper procedures had not been followed. She needed to file environmental impact reports, population assessments, and resource allocation studies. The paperwork would take at least 6 months to complete. The final insult came when the Zephyrians discovered humanity's artificial intelligence research program. Dr. Lisa Chang ran the project from a secret facility in the asteroid belt. Her team was developing AI systems to help manage the growing complexity of human space operations. The AI research was completely legal under galactic law. Dozens of species used artificial intelligence for various purposes. But first speaker, Velmuth claimed that human AI development violated the synthetic intelligence. Accord of 2387. "The humans are developing AI systems without proper oversight," he announced to the Council. "These systems could pose a threat to galactic security. We demand immediate access to all human computer networks for compliance verification." Elena knew this was industrial espionage disguised as law enforcement. Human technology had advanced rapidly in recent decades. Human ships were faster, human computers more efficient, human weapons more accurate. Other species wanted to steal these innovations rather than develop their own. The Galactic Council sided with the Zephyrians. They granted broad investigative powers that would give alien inspectors access to every human computer system. Military networks, colonial databases, private communications, research files. Nothing would be private anymore. Captain Chun stood in Admiral Chun's office and stared out at the stars. "They are not even pretending anymore," he said quietly. "The HFY attack our ships and threaten our colonies. The Zephyrians steal our technology and sabotage our expansion. The Council helps them do it." Admiral Chun nodded slowly. "What do you recommend, Captain?" "Fight back," Chun replied. "We have been peaceful for 50 years, and what has it gained us? They think we are weak. Maybe it is time to show them they are wrong." Admiral Chun was quiet for a long moment. "Earth's orders are clear. We maintain diplomatic relations and seek peaceful solutions." "Even when peaceful solutions do not exist?" Captain Chain asked. "Even when they are slowly destroying us piece by piece?" The Admiral had no answer. He had served humanity faithfully for 30 years. He believed in peace and cooperation between species. But he was watching his own people suffer while aliens smiled and offered false sympathy on New Eden. Farmers watched their crops wither and die. On Harmony, children went to bed hungry. On Prosperity, families packed their belongings and prepared to abandon the world they had worked so hard to build. In the Galactic Council chambers, First Speaker Velmuth congratulated himself on another successful manipulation. The humans were being slowly strangled by their own commitment to galactic law. Soon they would be weak enough to be completely controlled, War Commander Zethkar planned his next training exercise. This time he would bring more ships and fly even closer to human cities. Perhaps some accidents would occur. Weapons might malfunction and fire on civilian. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of Research Station Kepler and watched the dying star through protective filters. The massive red giant was entering its final phase. Soon it would explode in a supernova that would destroy everything. Within 50 light years. Her team had been studying the star for 3 years, trying to predict exactly when the explosion would happen. The magnetic field readings are getting worse, her assistant Dr. Kim Patel reported. The star's core is becoming unstable faster than our models predicted. We might have weeks instead of months. Elena nodded grimly. 2 inhabited systems lay within the danger zone. The human colony of New Hope had 40,000 people. The Kethver military outpost of Durthak housed 50,000 warriors and their families. Both worlds needed to be evacuated before the supernova occurred. The research station itself was barely outside the blast radius. Elena's team of 47 scientists worked around the clock to gather data and refine their predictions. Their early warning system was the only thing standing between millions of people and death. The station's communication officer, Lieutenant Commander James Walsh, received an urgent message during the night shift. "Dr. Rodriguez, we have incoming ships," he announced over the intercom. 12 Kethver heavy cruisers approaching fast. Elena rushed to the command center. Through the main view screen, she could see the alien warships. Their weapons were powered and their shields were raised. This was not a peaceful visit, War Commander. Zethkar's face appeared on the communication screen. His scarred features were twisted with anger. "Human Research Station, you will surrender immediately," he demanded. "Our intelligence reports indicate you are developing stellar weapons. This facility will be destroyed to protect galactic security." Elena stared at him in shock. "Commander, this is a scientific research station. We are studying supernova formation to save lives, including Kethver lives. Your own outpost at Durthak is in danger from this star." "Lies," Zethkar snarled. "No species studies stars unless they plan to weaponize them. You seek to create a stellar bomb to use against the Kethver hegemony. We will not allow this threat to continue." "Commander, please listen to reason," Elena pleaded. "We can show you our research data. Everything we have learned about this star proves that natural explosion is imminent. If you destroy this station, both our peoples will lose the early warning system." But Zethkar had already ended the communication. The Kethver ships moved into attack formation. Elena watched in horror as the first weapons fired. The research station had no defenses. It was a civilian facility dedicated to pure science. The Kethver plasma cannons tore through the outer hull like paper. Explosions rocked the station as power systems failed and atmosphere vented into space. Elena ran through the corridors as emergency alarms screamed around her. "All personnel to the escape pods," she ordered over the intercom. "This is not a drill. Abandon station immediately." Dr. Patel was trapped in the main laboratory when a support beam collapsed. Elena tried to reach him, but the corridor was filled with toxic smoke and debris. She could hear him calling for help, but the path was blocked. Lieutenant Commander Walsh grabbed her arm. "Doctor, we have to go now. The reactor is going critical." Elena looked back at the laboratory one more time, then followed Walsh to the nearest escape pod. As their small ship launched, she watched the research station die. The Kethver ships continued firing until nothing remained, but scattered wreckage and bodies floating in space. 32 people made it to the escape pods. 15 scientists and crew members died in the attack, including Dr. Patel and 12 others who were trapped. When the station broke apart, Elena's 3 years of research were destroyed. All the data about the dying star was lost. The consequences became clear within hours. Without the research station's monitoring equipment and predictive models, there was no way to know when the supernova would occur. The early warning system that could have saved millions of lives was gone. Elena's escape pod was picked up by a human patrol ship 12 hours later. She immediately contacted Admiral Chun and explained what had happened. The star could explode at any moment, she warned. Without our monitoring station, we cannot predict the timing. Both New Hope and Durthak need to be evacuated immediately. Admiral Chun dispatched every available ship to begin emergency evacuation of New Hope Colony. He also sent a message to the Kethver warning them about Durthak. The message was ignored. The supernova occurred 18 hours after the research station was destroyed. Elena was aboard the evacuation fleet when the sensors detected the massive burst of radiation. She watched the view screen as the star exploded in a cascade of deadly energy. The radiation storm swept outward at nearly the speed of light. It reached New Hope while the evacuation was still in progress. Half the colonists had been loaded onto transport ships, but 20,000 people were still on the planet's surface when the radiation hit. The colony's shields held for almost an hour. Then the power grid failed and the protective barriers collapsed. Elena watched helplessly as her people died. Families that had worked for generations to build homes on New Hope were wiped out in minutes. The radiation reached Durthak 6 hours later. The Kethver military base had better shields than New Hope, but not better enough. The base's reactors overloaded under the radiation bombardment. Explosions tore through the warrior barracks and civilian quarters. 53,000 Kethver died at Durthak. War Commander Zethkar was among them, killed when the command center took a direct hit from a radiation pulse. The outpost that had housed 3 generations of Kethver families was reduced to radioactive ruins. Elena sat in Ambassador Vasquez's office 2 weeks later and reviewed the final casualty reports. 73,000 people dead, she said, quietly, all because they destroyed our research station. Ambassador Vasquez looked older than Elena had ever seen her. The diplomatic weight of the disaster was crushing. The Galactic Council has agreed to hold hearings, she said. You will testify about what happened. The hearings began a month later. Elena presented her evidence to the full Galactic Council. She had backup data from the surviving scientists, communication logs from the research station, and detailed records of the star's behavior. Everything proved that the station was engaged in legitimate scientific research. The research station Kepler was humanity's gift to the galaxy, Elena testified. We shared our findings freely with all species. Our early warning system was designed to protect everyone in the region, including the Kethver. The destruction of this station was not only unprovoked, it was catastrophically short-sighted. She showed the council recordings of War Commander Zethkar's accusations. His claims that humans were developing stellar weapons were clearly false. The research data proved that the star was naturally unstable and would have exploded regardless of human involvement. The new Kethver representative, Subcommander Victor, offered no apology. War Commander Zethkar acted on intelligence reports that indicated a weapons program, he said stiffly. The loss of life is regrettable, but the hegemony cannot be blamed for defending itself against perceived threats. First Speaker Velmuth supported the Kethver position. While the human research may have been legitimate, the appearance of weapons development was understandable, he said smoothly. The Kethver response was proportional to the perceived threat level. Elena could not believe what she was hearing. The Kethver had attacked a civilian research station based on paranoid fantasies. Their action had directly caused the deaths of 73,000 people. Yet the council was treating this as a misunderstanding rather than a war crime. The final insult came when Council Speaker Morthuk announced the verdict. After careful deliberation, this council finds that both parties bear responsibility for the tragic events, he declared. The Kethver used excessive force without adequate investigation. However, humanity failed to provide sufficient transparency about their research activities. Elena stared at the ancient crystal being in shock. The council was creating a false equivalence between the victims and their attackers. Humanity was being blamed for not being transparent enough, as if that justified mass murder. Therefore, Speaker Morthok continued, both species will face equal sanctions. The Kethver hegemony and the human alliance are hereby suspended from expansion activities for 1 galactic year. Both parties will undergo mandatory mediation to prevent future misunderstandings. The punishment was identical for both sides. The species that had committed an act of unprovoked aggression received the same penalty as their victims. Elena felt something cold settle in her stomach as she realized how broken the galactic justice system truly was. To oversee this mediation process, Speaker Morthok announced, the Council appoints First Speaker Velmoth of the Zephyrian Collective as neutral arbitrator. Elena's mouth fell open. The Zephyrians had orchestrated much of the harassment against humanity. They had supported every Kethver provocation and had worked systematically to undermine human interests. Now they would judge humanity's compliance with galactic law. Ambassador Vasquez sat in stunned silence as the council members congratulated themselves on their balanced approach to justice. Elena. President Sarah Kim stood before the United Earth Assembly in Geneva. The great hall was packed with representatives from every human colony and nation. Camera feeds carried her words to 17 worlds across human space. This was the most important speech in humanity's history. My fellow humans, she began, her voice steady and calm. For 50 years we have sought our place among the stars as partners in a galactic community. We offered our friendship, our knowledge, and our commitment to peace. We believed that civilized species could work together for the common good. She paused and looked around the silent assembly. We were wrong. The hall erupted in murmurs and whispers. President Kim raised her hand for silence. The events at Research Station Kepler have shown us the true nature of galactic justice. When our scientists died trying to save both human and alien lives, the Galactic Council called it a misunderstanding. When 73,000 people perished because of Kethver aggression, we were told that both sides were equally responsible. Ambassador Vasquez sat in the front row and felt tears on her cheeks. She had spent 5 years believing that patience and diplomacy would eventually win respect for humanity. Now she knew that respect had to be earned in different ways. Therefore, President Kim continued, I am announcing humanity's complete withdrawal from the Galactic Council and all related organizations. Effective immediately, all human diplomatic missions will close. All trade agreements with alien species are terminated. All cultural exchange programs are ended. The reaction in the assembly was mixed. Some representatives cheered and applauded. Others looked worried about the economic consequences. A few seemed shocked that humanity was taking such a dramatic step. I know this decision will bring hardships, President Kim acknowledged. Human space will be isolated from the galaxy's economic networks. We will lose access to alien technologies and markets. But we will gain something more valuable. We will regain our dignity and self-respect. Admiral Chun watched the speech from his flagship in orbit around Earth. He had been expecting this announcement for weeks. His orders were already prepared and waiting for the president's signal. As soon as she finished speaking, he activated the withdrawal protocol. Across the galaxy, human diplomats received the same message simultaneously. They had 1 week to pack their offices and return to human space. No exceptions would be made. No delays would be allowed. After 50 years of patient diplomacy, humanity was walking away from the negotiating table. Ambassador Vasquez began packing immediately. Her staff worked through the night to secure classified documents and prepare for departure. Other species representatives watched in confusion as the humans dismantled their embassy with mechanical efficiency. First Speaker Velmoth visited her office on the 3rd day. Ambassador, surely this is not necessary, he said with his usual false smile. The Council is prepared to discuss modifications to the mediation process. Perhaps we can find a compromise that addresses human concerns. Elena looked at him with cold eyes. There is nothing left to discuss, First Speaker. You have shown us what galactic justice means. We choose not to participate in that system anymore. But the economic consequences? Velmoth protested. Human trade networks support thousands of businesses across dozens of worlds. Your technological innovations drive progress throughout the galaxy. This withdrawal will hurt everyone. Then perhaps you should have considered that before you helped destroy our people, Elena replied. She sealed another box of files and refused. To meet his gaze again, the withdrawal proceeded with clockwork precision. Human freighters collected diplomatic personnel from every major world. The vast communication networks that had connected human space to the galaxy went dark. Scientific databases that had freely shared human discoveries were shut down and encrypted. Dr. Sarah Mitchell closed her xenobiology laboratories and recalled all human researchers from alien worlds. Pack everything, she told her team. We are taking our knowledge home with us. The galaxy suddenly realized what it was losing. Human computer technology was 20 years ahead of most alien systems. Human medical research had led to cures for diseases that had plagued other species for centuries. Human engineering had solved problems that others thought impossible. Captain Williams, who had been harassed by Kefir inspectors, was reassigned to Admiral Chun's fleet. Her cargo ship was refitted with military-grade weapons and shields. No more inspections, Admiral Chun told her. No more delays. Human space is now closed to all foreign vessels. The first test came quickly. A Kefir patrol squadron entered the Proxima Centauri system, expecting to conduct another intimidation run over the human colonies. Instead, they found 50 human warships waiting for them. Commander Torres led the response. Kefir vessels, you have entered human territory without permission. You will depart immediately or be escorted out. The Kefir commander, Sub-Commander Victor, was confused. Humans did not usually challenge Kefir ships so directly. We are conducting routine navigation exercises, he replied. This system is open to galactic traffic under the Free Navigation Accords. The Free Navigation Accords no longer apply to human space, Torres replied calmly. Humanity has withdrawn from all galactic treaties. You have 30 seconds to begin departing this system. Victor activated his weapon systems, expecting the humans to back down as they always had before. Instead, the 50 human ships powered their own weapons and moved into combat formation. The display was overwhelming. The Kefir patrol was outnumbered 10-1. This is an act of aggression, Victor protested, but his voice carried less certainty than before. This is border enforcement, Torres corrected. You are no longer welcome in human space. Leave now or be removed. The Kefir ships departed without firing a shot. Victor sent angry messages to his superiors, but they could do nothing. Under galactic law, species had the right to control their own territory. If humans chose to close their borders, that was their legal prerogative. Within 6 months, the effects of human withdrawal became clear throughout the galaxy. The Kefir found themselves facing new enemies as old conflicts reignited. For decades, human diplomats had mediated disputes between hostile species. Without that neutral voice, ancient grudges resurfaced with deadly consequences. The Thurni Confederacy declared war on the Kefir over a century-old territorial dispute. The Vorthan Empire resumed raiding Kefir supply lines. 3 minor species formed an alliance specifically to resist Kefir expansion. Sub-Commander Victor discovered that intimidating humans had been much easier than fighting real wars. The Zephyrians faced their own problems. Their economy had grown dependent on stealing human innovations and selling them to other species. Without access to human research, their technological advantage began to disappear. Competing species developed their own solutions to problems. The Zephyrians had been solving with copied human technology. First, Speaker Velmuth called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The human withdrawal is destabilizing our entire civilization, he declared. We must find a way to bring them back into the galactic community. But the Council had no power to force humanity's return. They could offer incentives, but they had nothing humans wanted anymore. They could threaten sanctions, but human space was now self-sufficient. The species that had seemed weak and dependent had revealed their true strength through absence. The most shocking discovery came when other species began following humanity's example. The Altarian Republic, tired of Zephyrian economic manipulation, announced their own withdrawal from several galactic institutions. The Centauri Alliance declared independence from Council. Oversight of their internal affairs, a dozen minor species formed the Free Worlds Coalition and adopted human principles of equality and merit-based representation. They established their own trade networks and defense agreements. The Galactic Council's monopoly on interstellar governance was crumbling. Captain Chun, now Admiral Chun's son and a fleet commander himself, patrolled the borders of human space with quiet satisfaction. They thought we needed them more than they needed us, he told his officers. Now they are learning the truth. Human colonies that had struggled under alien harassment began to flourish. Without Kethver intimidation and Zephyrian bureaucracy, human expansion resumed at an accelerated pace. New worlds were surveyed and settled. Trade between human colonies increased dramatically. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had survived the destruction of Research Station Kepler, established a new research facility in the heart of human space. This time, the station was heavily defended and off-limits to all alien vessels. We will continue our work, she declared, but we will share our discoveries only with species that prove themselves worthy of trust. The Galactic Council tried repeatedly to open negotiations with humanity. They sent formal invitations, unofficial envoys, and even holographic messages from Council Speaker Morthak himself. All were politely declined. Humanity had made its choice and would not be swayed by words. Ambassador Vasquez, now retired to a quiet colony world, received many of these messages. She read them carefully and filed them away without responding. The aliens who had spent years teaching humanity about the 2 years had passed since humanity walked away from galactic civilization. Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the latest intelligence reports scroll across his screens. The galaxy was burning, and it had nothing to do with human actions. The Kethver hegemony was fighting 3 separate wars. The Thurni Confederacy had reclaimed 2 systems that the Kethver had held for decades. The Vorthan Empire was conducting hit-and-run attacks across Kethver supply lines. Most surprising of all, a coalition of 6 minor species had formed the United Resistance and was pushing Kethver forces out of the Outer Rim territories. They are losing, Captain Sarah Williams reported. She had been promoted to Admiral Chun's intelligence staff after her cargo ship was converted to a patrol vessel. The Kethver military was designed for intimidation, not sustained warfare. When they cannot frighten their enemies into surrender, they struggle to win actual battles. Admiral Chun nodded thoughtfully. For centuries, the Kethver had maintained their dominance through the threat of violence rather than the reality of it. Their massive warships and aggressive displays had convinced most species to avoid conflict. But without the Galactic Council's diplomatic framework to enforce peace, old enemies were willing to fight. What about the Zephyrians? Admiral Chun asked. Their economy is collapsing, Williams replied. Without access to human technology, they cannot maintain their competitive advantage. The Orion Commercial League has replaced them as the primary trade facilitator in the inner systems. 3 Zephyrian colonies have declared independence rather than face economic ruin. The Zephyrians had built their wealth on being intermediaries and information brokers. They sold stolen human innovations to other species and charged fees for arranging trade agreements. When humanity withdrew, the foundation of Zephyrian prosperity crumbled. Other species learned to deal directly with each other, cutting out the expensive middlemen. The most dramatic change was the collapse of the Galactic Council itself. What had seemed like a permanent institution was revealing its fundamental weakness. Without human participation, the Council could not maintain its authority over the galaxy's diverse species. Dr. Elena Rodriguez received regular reports from her network of scientific contacts. Many alien researchers had been quietly sharing information with human scientists for years. Now they provided updates on the chaos spreading through galactic institutions. The Council has split into 3 competing factions, she told President Kim during their weekly briefing. The Old Guard wants to restore traditional power structures. The reformers are calling for major changes to prevent future withdrawals. The radicals want to dissolve the Council entirely and start over. President Kim listened carefully to these reports, but she showed no sign of wavering in her decision. Human space was thriving in isolation. Population growth was accelerating. As families felt safe raising children without the threat of alien harassment, scientific research was advancing rapidly without bureaucratic interference. Economic development was booming as human worlds traded freely with each other. The test of humanity's resolve came in the third year of isolation. Long-range sensors detected something unprecedented approaching from the galactic rim. A massive fleet of unknown ships was advancing toward the civilized systems, destroying everything in their path. Council Speaker Morthok sent desperate messages to every known species. "We face an existential threat from beyond our borders," he broadcast. "All civilized peoples must unite against this invasion force." The attackers called themselves the Devourers. They had no interest in negotiation or compromise. Their ships were strange and deadly, using technologies that the galaxy had never seen before. They attacked without warning and left nothing but debris and radiation behind them. The Kethver tried to stop them with brute force. 3 full battle fleets engaged the Devourers in the Rigel system. The battle lasted 6 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the Kethver forces. Sub-Commander Victor died with his ship, screaming defiance until the end. The Zephyrians attempted their usual diplomatic approach. They sent envoys offering to negotiate with the Devourers, proposing trade agreements and territorial compromises. The alien response was to destroy the envoy ships without even acknowledging their communications. Panic spread through the civilized galaxy as the Devourers advanced system by system. Refugee fleets fled ahead of the invasion, carrying terrified populations away from their homeworlds. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions every day, but their discussions produced no useful solutions. First Speaker Velmuth appeared on human communication networks without permission. His usual composure was gone, replaced by obvious desperation. "President Kim, humanity must rejoin the galactic community," he pleaded. "We need your military strength and technological innovations to defeat this threat." President Kim's response was broadcast across human space. The Galactic Council forfeited any claim to human assistance when it chose politics over justice. "We will defend our own people and territory. The rest of the galaxy must face the consequences of its own choices." The Devourers reached the outer edge of human space 6 months later. Admiral Cheon deployed his fleets along the border, not to help the aliens but to protect human worlds. He watched through long-range sensors as the invaders destroyed the last Kethver outposts in the region. The first direct contact came when a Devourer scout ship crossed into the Sol system. Admiral Cheon's response was swift and decisive. The alien vessel was destroyed before it could transmit any information back to its fleet. Human space would remain, hidden behind a wall of silence and steel, but the galaxy's suffering weighed on many human minds. Dr. Rodriguez established monitoring stations to track the invasion's progress. Captain Torres organized refugee camps for the few alien survivors who reached human space. Even President Kim found herself questioning whether isolation was the right choice when facing genocide. The decision came when the Devourers attacked the Centauri system. This was not alien space but the border of human territory. The invasion force consisted of 50 massive warships, each one larger than anything in the human fleet. They moved with mechanical precision, showing no fear of the human defenses. Admiral Chun led the defense personally. His fleet was outnumbered 5-1, but human ships were faster and more maneuverable than the alien behemoths. The battle lasted 12 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the Devourer fleet. Not a single alien ship escaped to report back to their commanders. The victory came at a terrible cost. 20 human ships were destroyed and thousands of brave crew members died, but the humans had accomplished something no other species had managed. They had stopped the Devourers and proven that the invaders could be defeated. News of the human victory spread rapidly through the galaxy. For the first time in months, civilized species had hoped that the invasion could be stopped. But humanity showed no interest in sharing their success or joining a wider alliance. A Coalition of desperate alien leaders traveled to Earth personally to plead their case. Council Speaker Morthok, the surviving Kethver commanders, and even First Speaker Velmuth came to Geneva with formal requests for human assistance. They offered everything they could think of: technology, territory, wealth, and political power. President Kim met with them in the same assembly hall where she had announced humanity's withdrawal. Her words were calm but final. "You taught us that galactic justice was a lie and that peaceful cooperation was impossible. We learned from that lesson. Humanity will protect its own people and territory. We will not fight your wars or solve your problems." "But millions will die," Speaker Morthok protested, his crystalline body flickering with distress. "Millions already died because of your choices," President Kim replied. "The humans at Research Station Kepler, the colonists on New Hope, the families destroyed by your harassment campaigns. You showed us that alien lives matter more than human lives. Now you must live with the consequences of that philosophy." The alien delegation left Earth with nothing but empty hands and bitter understanding. They had pushed humanity too far and lost their most valuable ally when they needed it most. The galaxy would face the Devourer threat alone. Weakened by years of internal conflict and political corruption, humanity watched from behind its closed borders as the invasion continued. Some worlds fell to the Devourers. Others were evacuated. In time, a few species managed to mount effective resistance using tactics similar to those the humans had demonstrated. The galaxy would survive, but it would never be the same dot in human space. Children grew up hearing stories about the old days when their parents tried to be part of a galactic community. They learned about the price of seeking peace with those who mistake kindness for weakness. Most importantly, they learned that sometimes walking away from injustice was the strongest response of all. President Kim stood in her office and looked out at the stars. Humanity had found partners among the stars, but not in the species they had first expected. The Free Worlds Coalition had grown to include 23 systems, all following the human example of equality and merit-based governance. Trade agreements connected human space to like-minded civilizations across the galaxy.